Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video in the Kotlin series. In this episode, I'm going to be teaching you about while loops. So a while loop is another type of loop. Last episode we learned about for loops, and they work a little bit differently. So the while loop works by repeating code only while a condition is true. So we're kind of taking the concepts that we learned with if statements and combining them with what we learned with loops. Because we know that loops are used to repeat things, and we're just going to combine that with the condition. So let's get started. So a very basic example that we can do is var x is equal to 1, and then we could do while x is less than or equal to 5, then print out x, and then do x plus plus. So I don't know about you, but I think this is pretty readable even if it's your first time learning this. All you're doing is saying while this condition is true, run the code inside of here. So I want you to pause the video though and see if you can figure out what this will do, what will be printed out to the console. Just stare at it for a second and see if you can figure it out. Alright, so let's go ahead and run it now and see what happens. So I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's really that simple. So the way it works is you're going to go here and you're going to say x is equal to 1. So you're assigning the value of 1 to the variable x. And then it's going to go here and say, okay, is x less than or equal to 5? Is 1 less than or equal to 5? Yes, it is. So it's going to run the code here. So it'll print x. So 1 is printed to the console. And then it'll do x plus plus. So x is now 2. Then it's going to go back up to the top and just repeat because it's a loop. So now it's going to say, is 2 less than or equal to 5? Yes, it is. So it's going to print out 2, make it 3. Then it's going to go 4, then it's going to go 5, so 5 will be printed out, 5 will be incremented to 6, and then now of course 6 is not less than or equal to 5, so this will be false, so it's not going to continue anymore and it won't run the code inside of here. So that's why we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the basic idea behind a while loop. You simply run code only while a condition is true. If you want to, you can even play with this and give it a really big number and you could run it and let's just watch what happens. Look at that. So it's counting up. You know, it's going as fast as it can, but it can only go so fast. And it's going to take a very long time to complete because we gave it a very big number. Pretty cool. Now, eventually that will stop. It'll just take a while because it's such a big number, but sometimes you'll get loops that never stop, which are called infinite loops. And these are just loops that the condition never becomes false. So if I just give you a basic example here, we could do while true, and we could say s out, this is an infinite loop. So because we hard-coded this condition here as true, this means that this will never change, so this while loop will simply repeat over and over and over forever. So if you check it out, let's see what we get. Oh, let me go ahead and stop. Let me comment out this first part, and then I'll show you guys. Look at that. So it's hard to tell, but in the console, it's repeating the same message. This is an infinite loop over and over and over, and this will actually literally run forever unless you stop your computer, you kill the program, or the program crashes for some reason. So obviously, as you can imagine, this is something that you want to try and avoid because you can create situations where your programs kind of get stuck. Now, there are certain situations where a infinite loop is kind of useful. For example, if you have like a server where you're constantly looking to see if you're getting requests, or maybe you have a game loop or something like that, you may want to have an infinite loop or something similar to it, but generally speaking, you want to avoid them, okay? And what's interesting is that they can kind of sneak up on you. So if I get rid of this here, and I just uncomment this part back out, if while I'm coding this, I just forget this line here, and I run this now, as you can see, it's spamming 1 to the console, so it's going to do that forever because x is no longer being incremented every single iteration of this loop here. So it'll always be 1, and therefore this condition will always be true, and it'll just run forever. So something as small as leaving out one little piece of code, which is just x plus plus, can create an infinite loop. But the great thing is that IntelliJ will catch that for you most of the time. If I just remove it, it'll tell you this will always be true. So condition x is less than 5, whatever that number is always true. So that's a good sign that you might have created an infinite loop by accident. So that's while loops, but now I'm going to teach you guys about do while loops, which are very similar, except that they run code first and then check the condition. So if we have our variable x is equal to 1 again, and we do, and then open this up, and then we could do print x, and then x plus plus, and then at the end of this we had while x is less than 5, or less than or equal to 5. So we have taken the same thing that we just did before with our while loop and sort of reversed it with a do while loop. So the way this works is if we just do it line by line, you're going to go here first, so assign the value of 1 to the variable x, and then when it reaches this line, it's going to say do, so it's going to run all of the code inside of this block no matter what. So it's going to print out 1, or the value of x, and then increment the value of x. And then it's going to check the condition, so after that, So after it runs this piece of code here, it's going to check the condition and say, is x less than or equal to 5? It is. So I'll go ahead and do the do again. So now it's going to be 2. Now it's going to be incremented to 3. Then it's going to check again. So that's the basic idea behind a do while loop. You're going to do some code first and then check a condition so that you know whether or not you want to repeat the code again. So if I run this now, let's see what the result is. There we go. We get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just like before. So whenever you are asked a question, what is the difference between a while loop and a do while loop, or what situation should you use either one of these options here, generally speaking, if you want to run some code first and then check a condition, just do a do while loop, because that's how it works. It simply runs some code and then checks the condition to see if you need to run it again, okay? So if I just give you guys one more last example, that's sort of relating to last episode when we learned about for loops. If we bring back our menu list again, so we have pizza, pasta, burger. Now with the for loop, we saw that we can loop through this by doing item in menu and then just print out the item. That's super easy. If for some reason you don't want to use a for loop, there's not really a reason not to, but if you want to know how to do it with a while loop, you could do it by doing var index is equal to 0 or I, whatever you want to call it, and we could do while index is less than the menu size, so menu.size. Then what we want to do is print out menu item, menu index, and then index plus plus. So they both do the same thing. The only difference is that here you're writing a little more code that makes it a little harder to understand. This is way more concise on this side here. But the way it works is you have an index, the initial value is 0, because when you're going through a list of items, the index starts at 0, of course, it's 0 based. So then it's going to go here, check the condition, is 0 less than the actual size of the menu? It is. So print out the first item in the menu, then increment the index. So then eventually it's going to be incremented to 3. So it's going to do, is 3 less than or equal to the menu size, which is 4, because we have 4 items. That's true. So we're going to print out the last item, and then we're going to do index plus plus, which is going to make it 4. So now we're going to go back up here and do 4 is less than menu.size, which is 4. 4 is not less than 4, so that's going to be false, so it's not going to run any more code. So that's why in this situation we did a less than operator rather than a less than or equal to operator. But yeah, I just wanted to show you guys something, that's a little more interesting rather than just printing out variables 1 through 5. And yeah, that's it for while loops and do while loops. In my experience though, you're going to be mostly using for loops. I personally don't use while loops that often, but it's very important that you know how they work and what they do, of course. So hopefully you found that interesting, everybody. Thanks for watching. So that's it for this video, everybody. I really hope you learned something new. If you liked the video, please hit the like button, and if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Make sure to also check the description below for important links to code and other resources, but also really important, join our Discord. We have a big community of over 5,000 programmers, and it's a place where you can find new friends or get help on any code that you're stuck on. If you want to support what I do on this channel, please consider hitting the join button below, and this will allow you to support my channel for as low as $1 a month, but there are different tiers to choose from if you want to. For anyone that becomes a member on my channel, you get a special rank on my Discord server, early access to new videos, and you can just see yourself on the screen right now. So if that sounds cool to you, feel free to join. If you don't want to, that's fine. If you can't, that's okay too. I really just appreciate you watching the video anyway. Thank you so much. And that's it. Peace.